Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Trail Mix, where the nuts might be a little stale, but the company is always fresh.
Craig Crawford here, retired journalist, working for nothing but the truth and Social Security checks. I didn't put my earbuds in yet. And I've got my Ben Franklin mug here with my coffee, my medium and dark beans combined. I hope you have been watching the Ken Burns series on PBS. I'm learning some things which I didn't think is possible. I must be a bit arrogant and say I thought I knew everything about the American Revolution, but you know what? I didn't. We'll get into that maybe a little later about some of the things I've learned. But right now we're learning some real news, breaking news about Ukraine. And I'm not talking about just the sweetheart deal between Putin and Trump to force Ukraine to surrender, which is what that is. I'm talking about how the Europeans responded just now in Johannesburg in South Africa. Let's see, I just pulled up their statement. I've got here. Well, first of all, on this deal, look at that. Now, this is just the beginning of how awful this deal is for Ukraine. But take a look at that. This is what Trump and Putin, I mean, there are some experts saying this proposal of Trump's that he's calling his literally looks like it was written in Moscow. We can get back to some of that a little later, but that is a terrible set of agreements for Ukraine if they agreed to any of that. But anyway, I see we got Carolyn on the stage. No, she didn't.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just getting my chair.
Okay, and I'm focused for the moment on this Ukraine deal. What we have here is exactly. I just pulled this up just now. The Europeans are, the big issue right now is how the Europeans are going to respond, and they just did. This is the pertinent part of their statement they put out in Johannesburg just now. And I think the key sentence here is, we are concerned by the proposed limitations on Ukraine's armed forces, which would leave Ukraine vulnerable to attack. Yeah, that's one of the things to be concerned about for sure. It's just amazing. We knew this was going to happen going in. He was going to give away Ukraine all along, Trump was. But anyway, he's making it official. Mm-hmm. It's just up to the Europeans if they can hold steady. Yeah.
They have a lot at stake.
Yeah. And but we were talking earlier about this. I'm going to put up my little banner here for it since you're on. I made us a nice little banner on the on the rule of law. Is this it? No, that's not that one. Here it is. There. That's my. When you came on that, this is going to be my banner for you. Mm-hmm. The rule of law on life support.
It seems it.
Now, I don't know which one to take first. Let's go backwards a little bit. I don't know if you noticed the D.C. federal judge that ruled on the National Guard in D.C.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and that opinion, it was 61 pages, a lot of technicalities in it, like they all have. But I mean, the main thing was, that judge just flat out said it was unlawful. That was that judge's words. Was it a man or a woman? I'm not sure.
I can't remember who it was.
But unlawful. That's the word. A couple times in that order, that it was unlawful for Trump to order the National Guard to D.C. On the grounds that he could not, you cannot basically turn soldiers into cops.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was pretty strong opinion. Of course, that's one judge and they'll appeal and all that, but they don't seem to care that these things are against the law. They're just doing them anyway. That's the whole point of the rule of law under siege.
Mhm.
Then we had the Comey case, and I mean, you got background as a federal prosecutor. If I have this correctly, you actually investigated prosecutors in one of your jobs at the DOJ.
Yes, I was in an office that did that, where we investigated allegations of professional misconduct. Not crimes, but professional misconduct, which is a different category.
I mean, they've since backed off this, but at one point this past week in court, they acknowledged that the grand jury in Comey's case had not actually been shown the entire indictment that they ended up handing down. Then they realized just how awful that looked, and a couple of days later turned around and say, no, they did see it all. So now we don't know what they had.
And it was not clear to me how that happened. Why did they say the grand jury did not see it? And that does sound more likely to me, because they had prepared an indictment with 3 charges, and the grand jury only voted a true bill on 2 charges. So it's not clear to me how they changed their mind. I mean, how they said they didn't see it, and then they come back the next day and say, oh, they did see it. That just seems like an unlikely mistake that you would make,
Yeah.
I mean, it makes no sense to me. It makes no sense that they would have done it to begin with that way. And that why would Halligan have thought they didn't see it, but then she the next day says, oh, I was mistaken, they did see it.
Yeah.
This seems extremely sloppy.
Oh, we got a commenter in here, Olga, saying hi. Hi, Olga. You can hop right in here on the chat if you'd like to join us. I'll put the link here in the comments. I'm finally getting better at watching these comments, because they're kind of hard to see on this screen. But anyway, I've rigged it so I get a little bell when somebody posts one. But anyway, Olga, there's the link. I just put it on there. You can hop in. But now, as somebody who, as you say, at one point in your DOJ career investigated prosecutors accused of things, I mean, did you ever come across a case where a prosecutor deliberately didn't show the indictment to the grand jury that the grand jury handed down?
No, I mean, that was never really an issue in anything that we looked at. So,
can you accidentally not show the grand jury the indictment they handed down?
In my practice, and I worked in 3 different jurisdictions, and different offices tend to handle some of those matters differently. But in my practice, if we had a situation where we proposed several charges and the grand jury only voted true bill on some of them, we redid the indictment. It's not that difficult. You just, you run back to the office, and it's all on word processing, and you just prepare a new one and run back to the grand jury with it. So it's not that big a deal. And in some of the places because they were different, I can't remember which office did it which way, but we would propose the charges and the grand jury would vote on it. the returns weren't done. And when I say the returns, that means returning the indictments to generally the magistrate judge. It would be later in that day. So there was plenty of time to prepare a new indictment, take it back to the grand jury, and that's the one that the foreperson would sign. So it wasn't that big a deal for the grand jury to see the entire indictment that they had voted on, and true bill on, and true bill meaning an indictment on all of the charges. So it wasn't that big a deal. To me, it just sounds like a very rookie mistake. Halligan has never done that before. She's never been in a grand jury before, and I guess nobody told her how to handle it. So, and my understanding is that she was by herself in the jury, save for with there was an FBI agent who testified. After the witness had left the grand jury, then the prosecutor would tell the grand jury what the proposed charges are and ask them to vote and leave the room. Nobody can be in the room when they vote except for the grand jury. So she would have left the grand. If she didn't know she was supposed to, I'm sure the grand jurors would have told her she had to leave. And then they vote. Generally, the prosecutor is waiting to hear what the vote is. They would have told her we only voted on 2 of the 3 counts. There would have been plenty of time to call the office and say, hey, they only voted on counts 1 and 2, prepare a new indictment.
Yeah. And of course, we're talking about somebody who's the acting, or I don't know what her status is, U.S. attorney who was replacing the previous U.S. attorney who was a seasoned veteran who had decided not to prosecute Comey. And
correct.
Presumably he got fired for that and replaced by this woman who agreed to it but didn't know how.
Which is, nobody's going to walk into a U.S. attorney's office as a prosecutor and the first day know everything they're supposed to know. It was quite extraordinary that a person who had never been to the grand jury before would go alone and take an indictment of this magnitude, this importance. So, but I'm assuming nobody else was willing to go with her. Nobody else in the office was willing or was asked. I don't know.
And the Comey response so far has been I guess they're officially claiming prosecutorial what is that word for?
Well, misconduct, but
misconduct, but
I don't know they've said those words, but what they're saying is that it was a
malicious. Is it malicious? I'm looking for
vindictive.
That's the word.
Vindictive and selective.
Yeah. And I'm wondering how this episode we've been talking about can become fodder for that claim of theirs, that this wasn't a mistake. This was just an incompetent office desperately trying to file an indictment before the statute passed, which is evidence of their vindictiveness. I mean, I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm just saying, can they kind of put those together in their claim?
Yeah, sure. And I think it's a very good argument. I think that it does tend to show that there was a rush to prosecute, necessitated by the statute of limitations.
Now something I wanted to talk about when you came on this topic is I'm trying to think how to talk about how this matters to people who aren't Comey, and why it matters that prosecutors have to be held to account and held under control. I mean, here's the scenario, Carol. Imagine that you are a big time, high profile, but not elected Democrat in your community. Maybe you're active in campaigns, but anyway, you're in the news a lot. You're a high profile, and you're a big business person, maybe a donor, and a local prosecutor who's been recently appointed by Trump wants to make a name for him or herself, and decides, this guy's big time Democrat in the area. I'm just gonna indict him for something, just to mess with him. And that's not implausible now. It used to be, but that's not implausible now.
I think it's important to say whether they're a Republican or a Democrat, and the president is of a different party, because it could happen both ways. It could.
Yeah.
And that's something that people have to keep in mind. What goes around can come around.
Yeah.
And right now we have a Republican president, and most of the people in the Department of Justice, I presume, are, the people in power, the higher up people, I would assume, are also Republicans, or at least are, towing the line with Trump. And it's short-sighted to think that this would only happen, and that may be the case. We don't know, but I think that many Republicans out there are just burying their heads in the sand. That they need to be complaining now. They need to be saying something now. Otherwise, 8 years from now, when they do, nobody's going to listen to them. And why should anybody listen to them?
Yeah.
You got to complain anytime it happens. You've got to raise your voice, no matter who's in charge.
I saw
that is what the Department of Justice prior to this has always done. When I was with the department, there was never, ever any question of what party a person was in. It just was not a consideration. So.
Yeah, you nail it. It goes both ways. When a Democrat's in the office, they've now got a blank check to go after Republicans, just like Trump's doing to Democrats now.
I would hope that the Democrats would object as loudly as they are now, but who knows?
And then
justice should be blind. I mean, that's always what the Department of Justice has espoused, but we see something different.
Equal justice under the law. I learned one time in a documentary about the building of the Supreme Court, the architect who designed the Supreme Court, that equal justice under the law is the phrase on the building. The architect came up with that because it fit.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He thought he was trying to come up with a phrase that fit the space that he wanted to fill there. And he came up with that. It was an architect.
It certainly does work, and it fit. It suits. And that's the way it should be.
But then the thing I'm concerned about is, and I think we'll start to see this, I just see it coming, is we are going to see cases around the country where politically ambitious, partisan U.S. attorneys that Trump's appointed are going to go after powerful people in their communities to make a name for themselves. I just think this is open. What's happening in Washington and what's happening at the national level is opening the door to that kind of abuse around the country.
That is probably possible.
We got some more questions. Okay, let's see. JS realized gain. Okay, that's the screen name. Well, don't you think that it's likely what happens when you have these people who were just elected because they are anti-Trump or malleable enough to be thrown into place? I'm not following that. Let's see. Well, he tried again. Right. Okay. The same commenter. The right is rushing to not break statute of limitations. Well, that was a factor in this indictment of Comey. Is they had they got the grand jury indictment in within a few days of the statute of limitations passing.
I think a couple of days, yeah.
And then this commenter on our point about that it goes both ways. Sure, but it doesn't happen in the other direction. As far as those witch hunts, we don't see Trump going after his opponents via lawfare, etc. Well, I have to disagree with you there, JS Realized Gain. I think we're seeing Trump go after his opponents quite a bit, if that's what you're saying. Anyway, you could respond here in comments or get online with us here. But I've got, can you see these on the stage? They just started doing this on this platform where you can put comments on the screen. Can you see those? They're so small. See if they can make them bigger. That's a little bigger.
Oh, yeah, I can't see it. No.
There, that's bigger.
Oh, wait a minute.
That's as big as it gets.
Yeah, I do see it.
Oh, okay. That's a new feature they've just added on here. So, but from what I could tell at first, you couldn't really see it very well. Anyway, I'll leave them up there and see how that goes. This platform, this Yard Stream, StreamYard, they keep coming up with new features, and I have to learn how they work. Yeah. Okay, now another thing I was going to get into with you while you're here is Maxwell. I mean, here's something new. Just yesterday, we saw this. This up. Let me take that off. Anyway, so now, after all this wrangling and going back and forth, and the House Oversight Committee Chair Comer had given her 2 or 3 extensions on testifying to the House Oversight Committee. I'm talking about Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yeah.
So now, her legal team told Congress she would invoke her Fifth Amendment rights unless certain conditions were met. I don't know what the committee subpoenaed Maxwell to testify. Attorney stated she would require immunity from future prosecution. So I guess that's the condition. She did not plead the Fifth when she met with Todd Blanche few months ago. So I guess, the analysis here in the context of, Trump still not ruling out a pardon, the Epstein file records overwhelmingly voted in Congress should be released. And then this happens. And all of a sudden we're learning just yesterday that she's telling the committee that she will claim the Fifth.
I think she has said that all along about testifying before Congress.
Yeah, and Comer's announcing it as if it's some reason not to have her testify. It sounded to me like yesterday he was acting like, well, maybe they'll cancel. I mean, he released this in the context of suggesting that, well, maybe we'll just cancel her testimony. So it looks like they're trying to maneuver out of having her testify.
Well, she has an absolute right to plead the Fifth. And she should. Yeah. She absolutely should.
But and here was going to be my question on this for you is she's already been convicted. I mean, so the Fifth is for people to get to avoid incriminating themselves for any future prosecution. But she's already been prosecuted and convicted. So,
but she's never admitted she did anything.
Yeah. Oh, okay. But she could still, I mean, in other words,
there might be other crimes that she wasn't charged with that she convicted of. Yeah. So she still, her Fifth Amendment privilege continues.
But in general, you can't use the Fifth if there's no threat of prosecution. Is that?
There's always a threat of prosecution. They would have to immunize her for there to be no threat of prosecution.
So that's what she's really wanting then is immunity.
even if they were to do that, I can't imagine that she would ever want to testify.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't either.
I mean, she has a very good lawyer. Her lawyer is. I know.
Yeah, you mentioned that before. Yeah. I paid attention to him. You're right. He is.
He is very good, and he knows what he's doing. So.
Yeah, and going back to Comey, you had pointed this out in the beginning. I've noticed that you are very correct. Is that that Comey's lawyer? Is it Patrick Fitzgerald?
Patrick Fitzgerald, and he also has Michael Dreeben, who is the one who argued in court. He has probably had more Supreme Court arguments than anybody else in this country.
Really?
He was the Deputy Solicitor General for the Department of Justice for years and years. And retired a few years ago. When he retired, the Supreme Court justices had very laudatory things to say about him. He's brilliant. He very well versed in the law. Very much a legal mind. So, and he argued the case for them before the court last week about the indictment. So he's good. And Patrick Fitzgerald is also good. And there's also a woman who is, I don't recall her name, but I understand she has also has a lot of legal experience. So he has three very brilliant legal minds on his case.
And they've done
a lot more experience than Halligan. So
yeah,
circles around them. And from what I read about the two assistant U.S. attorneys who were with Halligan on the case, both of whom they brought in from another U.S. attorney's office. What I read about how their performance in court, I was not very impressed with how they handled it.
Yeah, and he's going to need the best lawyers, because to make a case of vindictive prosecution stick is not easy. It's not not an easy case to make.
Yeah, because it doesn't happen often.
Yeah.
I had one case one time when somebody argued selective prosecution, which is different. And it went absolutely nowhere. It's just those things don't really happen. That selective vindictive prosecution, I think there's a very good argument for it in the Comey case, and in James's case, I think there's a good argument for it. But I'm thinking overall, it's rare. It's very rare that happens.
Yeah. And the reason I'd like to see Comey make it stick that this was a vindictive prosecution is and succeed is so that it's a chilling effect on prosecutors around the country who might be thinking about, making a name for themselves doing the same sort of things in their communities if they're Trump appointees who are partisans and want to impress Trump.
I fear that any time in the future.
In the future, yeah.
I think it's important to keep in mind that the rule of law does not see politics, and I think it's very important to keep that in mind, whichever way. I mean, that's what I grew up on at the Department of Justice, and I'm very, very strongly committed to that.
And it's under siege right now.
I agree.
And I'm gonna put it back up here, our little graphic on that, because it's real. I mean, it is something that I never thought we'd have to be thinking about, but what bothers me the most, Carolyn, is I'm not sure a lot of the public really understands what we're talking about with the rule of law. I think a lot of them interpret that as, oh, that just is elite talk for keeping their power. It's not a well understood concept. I mean, where is it taught in school? Unless you go to law school, for one thing.
Yeah, well, it should be part of any civics classes, but I don't know that's. I remember taking it in civics in high school. I don't know if it's routinely taught now or not.
No, I mean, I'll compare it. The only study I've seen in the past few years is that the teaching of the First Amendment in high school had gone from like 70%. I think it was in what you're talking about, because I remember having a American civics. I think it was called civic class.
Yeah, right? Yeah, that's what I.
And
probably
so that's where it would be taught, and that's also where rule of law and branches of government, separations of power. That's where those things would be taught too. But anyway, I saw where it had dropped from about 70% in the up through about the 80s or 90s until this study I saw a couple of years ago. It had dropped to about 25% of high school students were taught anything about the First Amendment. And I just assumed that you could also probably apply that to other constitutional issues like the rule of law and the separation of powers and that sort of thing. So we really have a generation now that doesn't know what the hell we're talking about.
Yeah, which is too, but that's tragic. Tragic that people need to know what their rights are and what the rights of the government organization. And
yeah, and I think the reason for it is, people need to understand the government can't just do anything it wants. And I think there's this attitude now with what we're seeing with President Trump and his supporters, even though they used to be the people who opposed powerful federal government, they're now cheering him on when he sends in National Guards to turn soldiers into cops and indicting his political enemies and everything. They think that just shows how powerful he is, and I don't know how you get across to people how important it is until it happens to them, until they get detained for no reason without access to a lawyer for 10 days. Well, is that all the legal stuff you got on your mind?
Well, that's my biggest interest at this time right now is what's happening with the Comey case. I do think they have a good argument. So,
well, what do they do now that there's an issue because the DOJ made it one, whether or not the grand jury was shown the full indictment that they handed down? Are they going to have to bring in grand jurors and interview them? Is the judge going to have to talk to grand jurors, say, were you shown this or not? I mean, it seems like an easy question. That's a very
good question. I have wondered that too. My guess is that the judge, Nachmanoff, I think is how you pronounce it, the judge in Virginia, I would guess that he will bring them back in and question them further and question Halligan and whoever else, whoever prepared the latest pleading saying, oh yes, the grand jurors did see it. I would think he would probably have a hearing on that and then decide if it required questioning the grand jurors.
Yeah.
But I think the first question is, how did, if you're now claiming they did see it, how did you not know that to begin with? How did you make this mistake? That there's so many unknowns, and I think that the judge really needs to question them further and extensively. So
we got Jamie with her pretty avatar just popped
nice.
in.
Hi there.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi, Jamie.
Yeah, just saw the note on my email that you had gone live, so I thought I'd check in and see what all important ways of running the world you are discussing.
Well, we've really been digging into that Comey case and how crazy and unprecedented the DOJ's actions in that, first saying that the grand jury hadn't seen the whole indictment that they handed down, then saying no they were, and just the at best case scenario, incompetent prosecution. Worst case, which Comey hopes to prove, vindictive prosecution.
Everything about this particular era of Trump is loading everything up with sycophants instead of reasonably competent human beings. I wouldn't even mind if they were crooked as long as they weren't competent. If they were competent.
Well, that is one thing that, if you read up on authoritarian governments, dictatorships, if you want to call it that, they're known for incompetent governing. Actually, what they're good at is holding power. They're not good at running the trains on time, but when they get all the power, they control the information, so they can tell you the trains are all running on time. And then everybody thinks everything's fine. It's just like Trump's doing. There's no inflation.
Right now, what is concerning me most of what's going on is Ukraine. I mean, Russia invades a sovereign nation. They fight back, which obviously any sovereign nation would. And all Trump has done is grovel to Putin. And I want to know why, because he's alienated all of our European allies, and they're trying to help Ukraine. But how do they do that without the wrath of Putin coming down on them?
Yeah, here's the just got it like about an hour or two ago. The Europeans are all meeting in South Africa for the so-called G20, the 20 biggest countries or Western countries, and they have finally put out a reaction to Trump's plan, and this was like the pertinent part of it. But the key sentence is, we're concerned by the proposed limitations on Ukraine's armed forces, which would leave Ukraine vulnerable to future attack. See, one of the things in this deal is it would cap the number of soldiers Ukraine could have. I mean, imagine that. I mean, it's like telling a country or asking a country to agree, a country that's being invaded, to agree, well, you can only have this number of soldiers and no more. The other thing that they don't mention in this statement, which is clearly on their mind, is this agreement would not allow NATO to have peacekeeping forces in Ukraine. So, I mean, they were just really, this deal just makes
it's a total giveaway to Putin.
It just puts in place Putin's eventual complete takeover of Ukraine.
Right. And if the Europeans could finally put their total backbone together and just say, that's it, they're in NATO, back off.
Yeah.
That's where we are. Article 5.
I mean, that's where we are. Is it's up to Europe now. It's all up to Europe. Whether
Trump has totally caved. He's licking Putin's boot, and I want to know why. What does Putin know that we don't know?
Well,
and I think that's tied into the whole Epstein thing as well, because of the financials and the trading, the big market financial trading.
Yeah. It might be just as simple as that Trump just is fed up with the whole situation and just doesn't think Ukraine matters to our national security, and just let Putin have it. It may not be any nefarious blackmail that Putin has on him. I don't think he's ever. First of all, Trump's never cared about Europe to begin with. It's just not in his wheelhouse, and it could be as simple as that. He just wants it to go away, doesn't want to spend the money on you defending Ukraine, and just doesn't care that Putin takes over.
And I think what he's saying is Putin can have Europe, China can have Asia, and we'll take all of the Americas.
Yeah, there was somebody at the Brookings Institute who told me one time in the first Trump term is that was their analysis of all of Trump's statements and policies over the years, that was his attitude, that Europe belongs to Putin, Asia belongs to China, and the Americas, all of the Americas belong to him. and that's his worldview. And that's pretty much how his policy decisions pan out. Oh, we got somebody popping in here in the comments. Lorraine. Now here we got one of these.
UK, yeah.
Now here we got one of these folks. She believes what she's heard. Ukraine is the most corrupt country. They just got caught stealing billions. And that, I'm sorry, Lorraine, but you can't prove that. And if you can, please do.
Because that's
I've gone
line.
Troop did not cave. There's a war between Britain and the world. All right, Lorraine, I appreciate you hopping in and saying your piece, but you got to check your facts. I'm afraid that is none of that. I mean, it's just not the case. I mean, what you're saying, and I know where you're getting it. I've seen it, and I look at it, and I research it when I see it, and you can't prove any of that. I'm welcoming you to try and change my mind.
She does have a point about the past history of the UK, and I think they just may be on the edge of possibly putting the royal family out to pasture, even though Charles has been trying to desperately clean up the act a lot by really relinquishing a lot of their previously held honors and profits. But that's going to be something to watch, but it's a relatively minor issue at this stage, kind of an internal argument.
Yeah, Lorraine writes, okay, I'll send you a name soon. Then listen, you guys are not part of this war. Okay, send me a name. I consider us part of this war, because it's just like they said about Poland, and when Hitler invaded Poland, a lot of people said that's not our problem. I'm sorry, but what happens over there affects us, affects our trade. Europe's our biggest trading partner. We got plenty at stake in keeping Russia from taking over the rest of Europe. And that's the word from the comment section. Hop in and talk to us, Lorraine, and happy to hear from you.
The other cute thing I want to know about is the Saudi training of pilots in a whole new location. They've been training them for the past 75 years at least in Arizona. So why now are they going to be training them elsewhere?
Yeah. All right. Now, she's talking here about George Galloway. She says, look up George Galloway. He's just one. Okay. Let's see. Here's George Galloway. What do we know about him, Jamie? Anything?
Workers' Party of Britain, and this is what I was talking about being an internal argument within the UK. That's what he's part of.
He was expelled from the UK Labour Party because of his opposition to the Iraq War. He's known for very critical of Israel. And okay, Lorraine, we're reading about George Galloway. Now, what's your point?
He's Scotland, and Scotland is pretty much independent now, though they haven't totally broken away from the UK the way that Ireland has. But that's his fear. You know me and the royal family. It's the old subject with us.
Yeah.
But that's who he is.
Now Lorraine wants us to look up Alex Collier.
Craig, I'm gonna bow out here.
Okay.
Okay.
Hop in and out anytime. All right. Alex Collier's been in contact with extraterrestrials. Lorraine, is that the one we're talking about here? I don't know. I'm always interested in running these things down. So Lorraine says about Alex Collier, mean no disrespect, but it's bigger than all of us. This is a spiritual war against good and evil. Well, I'm not going to rule that out. I mean, I'm open to your ideas there, Lorraine. I just like to see support for claims people make, but it's okay just to have vibes. Vibes are okay too.
Well, this is all part of. Remember when I brought it up with you about noetics and parallel universes, and
yeah,
we're basically all somebody else's pipe dream.
Yeah. Now I just saw this and I wanted to play it. Vance, something here about Vance is real involved in this Ukraine thing right now. He met with Zelensky yesterday. I think he's the spear. Rubio and Witkoff are the negotiators and getting a lot of the attention. But from what I can see, Vance is kind of running things, and he's as tough on Ukraine as it gets. And so
what is his gripe with Ukraine?
So he's got a gripe against all of Europe. I mean, my attitude is he shares the attitude that Putin gets Europe and we should just stay out of it. But anyway, here's the thing that I just saw. This was at his meeting yesterday with Zelensky.
American Vice President J.D. Vance is defending the administration's proposed Ukraine-Russia peace framework, arguing that critics are ignoring the realities on the ground. He says that any agreement must halt the fighting and prevent the war from reigniting.
Any Ukraine-Russia peace plan has to stop the killing while preserving Ukrainian sovereignty, be acceptable to both Russia and Ukraine, maximize the chances the war doesn't restart. Every criticism of the peace framework the administration is working on either misunderstands the framework or misstates some critical reality on the ground. There is a fantasy that if we just give more money, more weapons, or more sanctions, victory is at hand. Peace won't be made by failed diplomats or politicians living in a fantasy land. It might be made by smart people living in the real world.
Well, there's his answer to your question, I guess, Jamie, is why he's...
in other words, Putin is the big bad guy bully, and Trump or Ukraine should just cave in and let them have whatever they want.
Yeah, because Trump yesterday repeated what he had said back when he had his stormy session with Vance. Vance actually started that fight.
With the where's your suit business.
In the Oval Office, and but. What Trump said then, he said again yesterday that that Ukraine doesn't have the cards. I mean, that is his entrenched view of just what you're saying. It's might makes right. That's how they see this. Is Putin's more powerful? Therefore he should win. But then my argument there is, if he's so all powerful, How has he not won this war in what, 3 years? I mean, is that powerful? I don't think that looks so powerful.
No, I'd give the Ukraine the means to drop a few on Moscow.
Yeah. So I don't know why, but that is their attitude. And of course, I mean, my understanding of this deal is that they've given. Well, I'm not my understanding. Zelensky said that he was told by Vance at this meeting that I just showed that they had a week, now 6 days, to accept or reject this deal.
And it really frightens me because, in a way, by Ukraine caving, it divides a section of Europe from the Nordic nations to the more southern nations. And Ukraine sits there in the middle with that. Geographically, it is a huge mistake.
What, for who?
For Ukraine and for Europe.
Oh, to accept this plan.
To accept this.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, they would be insane to accept this.
I mean, these are just the high points, not everything. I mean, the thing, Ukraine gives up, I think it's 20%. They end up losing 20% of their territory. I mean, here's some of I've got on the screen here some of the, and limiting the size of their military. That's the one that amazes me.
And they're not joining NATO. That's what I said.
And not only that, you know what this deal says? It says that Ukraine has to put it in their constitution that they will never seek NATO membership. That's specifically what's in the plan. I mean, that's one of the parts that one of the experts I saw said it looked like it had literally been written in Moscow.
Yeah,
and then I love this. And Russia agrees it won't invade neighboring countries. Okay, yeah, we're gonna take that one to the bank. Sure. Sure.
I just hope Europe gets it together and says no.
I think they're trying. I mean, this statement that I put up earlier was no, I'm still there. That was the pertinent part of it. I thought they're trying to, this was the statement they just put out a couple hours ago in South Africa at the G20. They're trying to say this is the framework of a deal, but they're without being, just rejecting it out of hand. But they're clearly, this is from their point of view, dead on arrival. But the question is, the threat Vance made yesterday to Zelensky was, if you don't accept this deal, we're pulling out all our support. And that led to Zelensky in his speech to his address to the Ukraine people yesterday. He said, we've got a choice between our dignity or our partnership with America. I thought, talk about a Hobson's choice, but that's how he set it up. And it's implied to me that he's prepared to accept losing the partnership with America, but he can only do that if Europe can step up.
Yeah, I would hope that. I am so much in support of Zelensky and Ukraine. It has just, he has real balls. And I'm just hoping that Europe will support that. It needs to be a collective pushback. Just middle finger to Vance and Trump.
Well, I see our pal Lorraine's still at it here. Lorraine, I've looked into all that. I have researched it. You're repeating a lot of Moscow propaganda. This is a lot of Russian talking points. Zelensky used dollars to build a sports center in Ukraine instead of fixing the grid for their people.
It's just not true. She's just.
I'm sorry. Take a look at where you're getting this stuff, Lorraine, because I guarantee you'll find what I've found is a lot of it's coming from Russian sources that are, things like, all that. I have pulled up plenty of articles, Lorraine. I guarantee you. It goes back to who was the prosecutor in the Russian case, and actually, I'll give you a source. The Senate Intelligence Committee, when Marco Rubio was chairman of it, looked into those accusations and found them not to be true.
Yeah.
All right, Lorraine.
I'm sorry, Lorraine. You are just spouting the party line, and you need to go back and take another good look at it.
That's all I'm saying. Take a long look at where you're getting your information and really dig into where it comes from, because there have been plenty of research to show that these attacks on Zelensky and his spending, and that he has yachts and all that kind of stuff, it's all coming from Russia. But that's how it goes. Now, Jamie, I wanted to talk to you about something you had on here that I found interesting. And shoot, I should have brought this up when Carolyn was here, because this kind of goes into her wheelhouse. Is this? Is that it? Yeah. Where I found this a really nice. I don't know where you got this or what.
Oh, if you go down to the bottom, I think it's the unredacted bastard. He has a regular email that he sends out, and you can either subscribe or pay.
Well, now, who is this? I mean, it's like because I liked how he pulled all this together here. But anyway, I liked how he organizes it. Truth bomb. When a judge revives contempt proceedings against senior officials, it's because someone major fucked up and kept fucking up. The immigration stunt that became a constitutional faceplant. Remember when the administration dug up a law so old it decided to use it to deport? They didn't see. I don't know what he's talking about. He doesn't have any sources, but I like it. I want to know more though. But I don't know what he's talking about.
Well, if you subscribe to him, you will get a newsletter every day, and I haven't dug into him that much. I put it up there more for commentary than anything else.
Yeah, I like this. I like this truth bomb. When the executive branch openly ignores a federal judge, that's not policy. That's authoritarian cosplay. That is so true, and it's what's happening, and it's happening more than people say. Oh, they're not doing that. They're doing that. I mean, there's a judge out in Portland that caught them doing it, threatened sanctions, and the judge a couple days ago, or maybe yesterday, the judge in D.C. that ruled on the National Guard that it was unlawful for Trump to put the National Guard in D.C. I mean, they ignored that judge. I mean, this business of ignoring judges is serious, and people aren't bothered by it because they think it just shows how strong Trump is that he ignores judges. And
he just refers to himself as political writer, resistance organizer, and truth teller, cancer survivor, U.S. Air Force vet, zero tolerance for Krasnov's, that's his name for Trump, bullshit, and humor and resistance.
Yeah, I like his writing.
Yeah. But what I usually do when he puts up some of this stuff is go hunting for additional information. See if I can see where he's getting it from, because you're right, he isn't good about providing sources.
So
maybe we should, maybe we should invite him to join us.
Yeah. So let's see, he's on, okay, he's a Substack. Is that it? Okay, here it is.
Yeah, he's on Substack. Maybe they could tell us who he is.
The Unredacted Bastard.
Yeah.
Substack.com. Well, I think I will sign up for that. And I thought that was, I like people who kind of sort of corral the news and then reshape it into a narrative. And I like that. Oh, we got us another commenter coming in. Let's see what this one's saying. Now, here we go. Slava Ukraine from Coast Cider. All right, Coast Cider, I'm with you on that. Slava.
Yes, we know he was an actor and a comedian. He's very proud of it.
Yeah, and Donald Trump was a TV star, and
so not a very good one.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Can you hear that?
What? No.
I've got something going on in my ear, and I don't know what it's coming from.
Yeah.
Oh, here it is.
Some of the most Lorraine, some of the most intelligent and perceptive people in the world are comedians. That's where they get their material.
Yeah. Now, can you see? So obviously, you can read these comments now. They're big enough.
Yeah, I can
kind of
read them.
Struggled because I like interacting with the comments, but now let's see how is this any better? That's the wide.
No,
version.
it was better off to the side.
Better
okay,
off to
now
the
this
side.
is good. That removes unredacted bastard.
Yeah, that was in the way. So if I put now this is the wide. I'm just trying to decide what's best for future. So I've got it set on wide and big here. That's wide and big. Now this is the options are tall and big. That's tall, so it goes up on the side, or wide.
I wonder if Co-Cider has a few words.
Which one's better?
Co-Cider is the one who put up the Slava Ukraini.
Well, I'm just right now. I'm nerding out here on the technicals.
Okay.
It's like, do you like wide, or this is like the eye doctor? Do you like number 1, tall, number 2, wide? Which one's easier to read? I gotta widen my screen.
So he was a performer, Lorraine. What is the purpose of that?
I don't understand. Explain to me why we want to attack the president of the country that was invaded and not the president of the country that's invading. I mean, I don't understand that. I mean, explain that. I mean, why does Putin get a break when he's the one committing genocide on a neighboring country? And you want to talk about Putin?
The one who has slaughtered and stolen children.
And Putin was a KGB agent. I mean, how about that for a background? I'll take an actor and comedian over a KGB agent. Oh, well. Go back to Coast Cider. Slava Ukraine. Coast Cider.
He disappeared. He didn't keep it up.
No, he didn't. He was a drive-by.
Yeah.
It was a drive-by. A drive-by commenter. Lorraine's hanging in there. I give you credit, Lorraine. You're sticking to your guns.
Where is this villa?
There you go again, Lorraine. That villa doesn't exist. I'm telling you, that's coming from Russian propaganda. Look at where you're getting that information and check it out. That isn't true.
If he had a villa, Putin would have bombed it by now.
I mean, I know Tucker Carlson is pushing that. That's where I've seen that particular claim. And I'm telling you, Tucker Carlson has a lot to answer for his ties to Putin and Russian television and whether he's getting paid by Putin. I think there's there are questions about that.
Even Fox tossed Tucker off the air.
But I come back to, Lorraine, why are we wanting to focus so much on Zelensky and not Putin? I mean, that's I'll grant you all these things are true about it. I'll give you that. All these things are true about Zelensky. Okay, but let's compare. Is all these things okay? Let's say Zelensky's corrupt, whatever. What about the country that's invading his country and killing civilians on a daily basis, thousands and thousands, 100,000, we think at least. Why aren't we at least talking about that and only talking about the president of the country that got invaded? I don't understand.
Well, I told you about my primary care physician who's from the Ukraine. And so far, all of her family that's there have been safe, but she did bring in a couple of relatives to live with her for 2 years till they could find a relatively safe place to be.
Oh, yeah.
And that's going on with a lot of U.S. residents, that they're trying to shelter some of their Ukraine relatives.
Now, here's something else that came out today that the Europeans are all abuzz about. Is it turns out that there have been secret meetings between Jared Kushner and the Russians leading up to it. Appears this article makes a pretty strong case that this deal, so-called, what I would call it, the Ukraine surrender plan, was actually cooked up in Miami at secret meetings at the end of October. You can see here it says between Special Envoy Witkoff, Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner. So here we have, and then a Russian, this Russian here, Dmitriev, is real close to Putin. So they were meeting with one of Putin's top dudes in Miami, hatching out this plan. And Europeans are all worked up about this story today.
Jared is a crooked son of a crooked father. He wants his beachside Gaza resort.
Yeah, I mean, this is the pair. He and Witkoff, Jared and Witkoff. They're the team that put this Gaza deal together too. That I've noticed they're not talking about so much anymore because apparently it's not going so well. But I mean, Jared, all this talk that Jared was going to stay out of the administration and everything, man, he's just in there both feet. I mean, so what? He's not getting paid. He doesn't have to. He's literally got $5 billion from the Saudis in the bank.
Right.
I mean, that's a fact. He first got $2 billion right after he left the first term, and in the interim, he's gotten another $3 billion from the Saudi investment fund for his new company that he created for nothing but receiving this Saudi money that he's supposedly going to invest. I mean, he's literally got $5 billion he's sitting on from the Saudis. and we're worrying about whether Zelensky has a villa. I mean,
well, what I also worry about is, oh shoot, idea went across my brain and left rapidly. Keep spouting something, it'll come back.
Well, actually, I was gonna, before we wrap up, I wanted to play a little bit of Marjorie. We got to have a little nostalgia moment.
Well, she got her
For
pension
margin.
She gets her pension vested and
Yeah,
retires
saw-
2 days later. Oh, that's what I wanted to talk about. The midterms. So does somebody appoint to her place since she still has a year in her term?
it depends on the state. I think some states they go straight to a special election. I'm not entirely clear about what Georgia does.
But she
But
does
here's a little
mention that she sees the Democrats taking over the House in the midterms. Now, if Trump goes bye-bye for one reason or another, or we impeach him, then who's standing in line? Is that J.D. Vance or is it Rubio? You know, it's who's up to bat if Trump is gone?
Yeah, I haven't gotten to that scenario, but it's probably. I want to hear a little bit of Marjorie here.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. I've always represented the common American man and woman as a member of the House of Representatives, which is why I've always been despised in Washington, D.C., and just never fit in. Americans are used by the political industrial complex of both political parties, election cycle after election cycle, in order to elect whichever side can convince Americans to hate the other side more. And the results are always the same. No matter which way the political pendulum swings, Republican or Democrat, nothing ever gets better for the common American man or woman. The debt goes higher, corporate and global interests remain Washington's sweethearts, American jobs continue to be replaced, whether it's by illegal labor or legal labor by visas or just shipped overseas. Small businesses continue to be swallowed by big corporations. Americans' hard-earned tax dollars always fund foreign wars, foreign aid, and foreign interest. And the spending power of the dollar continues to decline. The average American family can no longer survive on a single breadwinner's income, as both parents have to work in order to simply survive.
Okay, I think we get later on. She gets more into Trump, but what's going on? I mean, there's two scenarios here. I see is she's planning to run for something, Senate, maybe even president, or she's like Sarah Palin. I've always been puzzled. Sarah Palin was at the top of her game and just disappeared, just went away. This could be
Sarah did,
one of those.
because she had all those family interactions and various pregnancies and legal troubles up in Alaska. MTG hasn't had that. Her marriage seems fairly stable, her family life. So I'm just wondering who threatened her and how seriously.
Maybe Jack's got an idea. I see Jack. Well, I keep seeing Jack trying to come in, and I hit the button, but then he ain't there. Where are you, Jack? Jack's having connection trouble. Jack's been coming in late lately. Late. He's a lake. but yeah, I don't know. I mean,
I know she's been kind of wacky with the Jewish space lasers and all of that, but right now she's coming across as a fairly pleasant human being. So,
I thought she was, kind of positioning herself to
go for higher office.
Yeah, because the Senate, there's a scramble. Republicans think Ossoff in Georgia is vulnerable, the Democrat. So I think Mike Collins might be one. He's now Veterans Secretary. Anyway, there's going to be a scramble among Republicans to run against Ossoff, and she wanted to get into that. That would be one. I mean, one that's off the table is that she was going to challenge Mike Johnson. Now here's Jack trying to come back again. Now you there, Jack?
There he is.
Whoa! Oh, I hit the wrong button. All right, here we go. Now you there, Jack?
Hey. I'm not sure what was going on. It kept, every time I tried to enter the studio, it kept wanting me to sign up, and then it said I didn't have a proper name or something.
Really?
Yeah, and it wouldn't. played with me and played with me. I kept going back and forth. Finally it decided to work. It's just playing with my mind on my first cup of coffee.
Yeah. Yeah, we were just pondering we were just listening to a little of Marjorie's farewell video, trying to figure out what
That
she's
just
doing.
proves she is nuts.
That's the other thing. That's the other thing you always have to remember about a lot of people in politics. I heard Kissinger once said about the Soviets, never assume they have a strategy.
Yeah. Well, that's anytime they talk about somebody playing 3-dimensional or 5-dimensional chess,
Yeah.
you sit there and go, okay, they're just saying they're nuts.
Well, never confuse ignorance and greed for a conspiracy.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what is it? The old thing is never attribute to evil when stupidity suffices.
Let's see. I had some of Pat D's.
She had some good ones this morning.
She got on a roll. Yeah.
Yeah,
all the European cartoonists.
She's got a link to the cartoons, doesn't she?
Yeah. Yeah. I like that one. First, Ukraine has to cooperate. Trying to get us across the bottom.
This is just so much us being, I don't know, an ally with Putin that it's incomprehensible to me.
It really is. And it's not like we didn't see it coming, but I guess I thought they were going to be, because they've been so subtle all along about this, that I really thought that they would continue to be subtle, because it's been obvious to me he was going to give away to Ukraine to Putin from back to the campaign.
He negotiated,
but he's been so subtle. What's that?
He negotiated this one just like he negotiated the Afghanistan withdrawal. And Biden got the blame for all the trouble, everything that happened, but it was Trump that set it all up.
Yeah, Biden's mistake was he implemented Trump's plan. That was his mistake.
Yeah.
And this one's kind of this is another one of Pat D's cartoons this morning. That one's got a lot going on. For anybody who wants to know, the credits for all these cartoons are on Trailmix. I wasn't able to figure out how to pull them up. Oh my goodness! Old Lorraine's still at it over here, Jamie. Lorraine says Zelensky is a Biden-Obama asset. Oh, really?
Okay, so she's opposed to Jews.
And that is a problem. How?
Yeah, I know. That's always my stock response. And well, Lorraine, I appreciate your participation, but I don't know where you're getting all this, but I don't think you're getting it on your own. Going back to let's see this one. Well, that one's kind of crude, but it gets the job done. Yeah, I just can't understand why they all of a sudden decided to be so overt about siding with Putin against Ukraine and really just lowering the hammer. I mean, according to Zelensky yesterday, Vance in their meeting yesterday told him, you got a week to accept this deal or we're pulling out all our support.
Yeah. And of course, Lindsay is totally silent, isn't he?
Oh,
Lindsey
is he?
Graham. You know,
Really?
I think basically, what was it? Somebody posted about that this was all decided down in Miami, and it was all decided not with any official government people, but with a lot of money people.
Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah.
let me put the conspiracy out. This is Trump's loan coming due.
Yeah, okay.
They're getting ready to foreclose on him.
Yeah, Jamie and I pulled the article on what you're talking about. There was a meeting in Miami in late October between one of Putin's top dudes, one of his negotiators behind the scenes. I mean, really seems like it was as close as you can get to meeting with Putin himself. Anyway, they had a meeting in Miami between that guy and Witkoff, who's been the negotiator for us with Putin, the former shopping mall developer, and Jared Kushner. So the three of those guys met back in late October in Miami and hatched out this deal that we're now looking at, and that story is rocking Europe. I first saw it in the Europe. In fact, I haven't seen it in any American media, but the European media is all over this story that this was a secret deal hatched between Kushner and Witkoff and essentially Putin in secret meetings in Miami a month ago.
And all of those people are just rich financial people. You know, that's what. If his son-in-law is involved, it means that his company is involved.
Yeah.
You know, so this wasn't a meeting. This was a business meeting where this got decided. This was not formal government negotiators.
Yeah, I mean, just look
for
at
either
those
side.
I mean, there you see the. Oh no, I see some. Oh, I see some comment. Oh, I see. There's a way for me to highlight comments. That's what's going on there. Huh. Oh well.
There's a lot of commentary on Zelensky's remark about it being between dignity and U.S. support.
Yeah.
And there is a comment by someone on Blue Sky called Tender. And he says, as I predicted only yesterday, Trump and Putin will now go all in. Time is running out. The Russian armies are bleeding to death, and Trump is on the verge of losing influence in the Republican Party thanks to Epstein case. Both have to move now and fast.
Now, that's an interesting point that I have seen that the Russian situation militarily and in country is getting rather dire that he needs to end this war. That's an interesting point as a motivator for what's happening right now. That could be. Huh. And yet, and despite that, Trump's argument is that Zelensky, Ukraine isn't holding the cards. I mean, and Vance yesterday in that thing we talked about earlier, Jamie, their attitude is that the reason Ukraine has to give up is because Putin's winning. He's more powerful. Might makes right. But if it's true that this is actually happening because Putin is weak, would counter that argument.
Well, look at his age. How long can he last if the country is totally broke?
Well, I think you got points there. I think our media tends to credit Russia as being a stronger, they almost go back to the old Cold War idea that the Soviet Unions are equal. And they're not. They're
right.
You know,
I always loved what McCain said it best, that that Russia is just a gas station masquerading as a country.
Well, they're not even quite that anymore. It's just, yeah, they're a petrostate. That's what, them, Venezuela and stuff, if it wasn't for their vast quantities of oil that they export and prop up their economy, they wouldn't be in power.
Yeah.
And militarily, they're, if we would to send our army in as peacekeepers, we'll put the peacekeepers in quote, Russia would back off because it's not worth they're not going to start World War III. One, they don't have the ability and, to sustain a war. And two, Putin's not going to commit suicide.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, we don't want to escalate into it either. I'm not promoting that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that Russia's a lot weaker and we could play a stronger hand than we're playing.
Well, something happened a couple of days ago that reminded me of something you had said quite a while ago when we started talking about this Ukraine stuff. But anyway, the Europeans, the NATO, scrambled its jets when Russia launched a really serious drone attack in Western Ukraine. And NATO got much more aggressive in response to that over Ukraine territory, which didn't get a lot of attention, but I thought it was interesting. They went over and chased out and targeted some of those drones over Ukraine territory, NATO jets over Western Ukraine.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, once again, I only saw it in European media, which I just can't believe how little our media is covering all this. I mean, but it reminded me of what you had said when we were when I was advocating that we just invade Russia. Or anyway, I was going whole hog. Anyway, you
Yeah.
said a no-fly zone over Western Ukraine would be a good response, and
Yeah.
I think that's kind of where they're sort of tiptoeing toward is that, and that would be a great official response right now. Is say, NATO with U.S. support is establishing a no-fly zone over Western Ukraine. In the beginning of the war, there was all this talk about a no-fly zone over all of Ukraine, which Zelensky was lobbying for and never got. But you could carve out just Western Ukraine and try that.
I think some of the problem with Ukraine right now for Europe is Ukraine's using up ammunition faster than Europe has the manufacturing ability. And so,
and that's another aspect of this is what we are handing over is our dominance of the defense industry if we're not careful here, because this is a crass self-interest. But I mean, we are encouraging Europe and they're doing it. They're spending more money on their own defense, building up their own defense industry instead of buying ours. And over time, and I think they've made a commitment after realizing they can't count on us anymore to build up their own defense industry. And we're on a path now to where we will not dominate that market like we do now. And that might not be a good thing for our own economy.
Oh, 2 minutes ago. 2 minutes
What?
ago, Amy Klobuchar just posted about her meeting with Pope Leo about bringing Ukrainian children home from Russia. So, she may be setting herself up for a presidential run as well. I would hope
I
so.
want her to become Senate Majority Leader.
Yeah. Well, that too. Can we take back the Senate in the midterms? Is there enough?
I tell you that the numbers are looking pretty darn good right now. Let me go pull that up again. I had that here somewhere. Is the number? If you had to pick a number of the, or maybe I didn't pull it up. I thought I did. Yeah, here it is. If you wanted a number of the week, here it is. I mean, just let those numbers sink in, because what we're seeing is, and this is Marist. Is that, yeah, this is Marist poll. They're pretty conservative, and that's this is what they call the generic ballot, where it's just Democrat or Republican for the midterms.
Mm-hmm.
That 14% lead, if you go back and look at the past, and I think one good way, I've been comparing Trump's first midterm and his first presidential term a lot, and I went back and checked Marist. I like to compare polls within pollsters, not pollster to pollster, because that's tricky. But I went back and looked at Marist at this point before the 2018 midterm, when Democrats netted 41 seats in that midterm. And at this stage, before that, in this generic matchup, Democrats were ahead 7 points. So they are already right now at double the lead in the Marist generic sample that they were back when they netted 41 seats.
Yeah. Of course, we are a year out from the election.
And it's hard for structural, well, I could make the argument that, even though you're a year out, when it's baked, when a double digit lead is even a year out, I don't know how you change it, but because what's fascinating to me about this is what's fascinating to me about this number is you also look inside this poll and others. Democrat popularity is very low. I mean, when you ask, what you have a positive or negative view of Democrats, they're totally underwater. But despite that,
how
you see this.
You know how we are on the blog. We don't give the Democrats a lot of credit for anything.
No,
we're about as liberal Democrats as you can be.
I know. It sometimes bugs me about Democrats is they're just so damn hard on themselves. That they kind of all the whining gets on my nerves. It's like you can't win by whining. But
I think part of it is too much of the Democratic media comes out of the East Coast. So those of us here in the middle of the country are going, that doesn't work here.
Yeah.
And you hope. I think there's a lot of attempts going on with Democratic parties out here in Missouri anyway, is to try to self-fund as much as possible, because they're hitting me up all the time now for money. I donated to one of the couple of the candidates last election, and now I got 2 texts just the other day to help with their petition drive to block where they're trying to eliminate congressional office up in Kansas City, the redistricting plan.
Well, I popped this
So
up
they're
when you brought up the middle of the country. I mean, here's what's happening in the middle of the country. This is the Wall Street Journal. Middle class is buckling under financial strain from inflation. I mean, that's what's driving those midterm numbers we just looked at. Is Republicans and Trump. I mean, it's not that they're not fixing the economy. They're not even talking about it.
Yeah. Well, and there's that. And it's what I'm talking to people about is not the price of eggs or the price of a Thanksgiving dinner or anything like that. It's their household insurance.
Oh, yeah.
You know, my insurance started out at 3 years ago when I bought this, or 4 years ago when I bought this house, at being right around $1,000 a year.
Yeah.
And now it's up to about $1,800 or $1,900. That's a heck of an increase.
Now, are you talking about property insurance?
Yeah, for my house, the whole package of, fire, wind, and everything.
Right. And what's spreading around the country is what I've been seeing. I mean, it's a full-on crisis in Florida. The property insurance crisis is just phenomenal. Yeah. I mean, basically, people are just going without house insurance.
Yeah. And that's just, I don't know.
Climate change has really taken a big chunk out of people's ability to support themselves, because if the house goes and these tornadoes keep getting bigger and bigger and the floods keep getting bigger and bigger, the insurance companies can't cover it.
Yeah.
Not these multi-billion-dollar claims.
Well, and it's always been the case for a long time in the climate change debate that the big business leaders who were always in favor of acknowledging climate change and doing something about it was the insurance industry. Mm-hmm. They've always been, going back to Al Gore, they were aligned with climate change because, that's always, I thought, one of the best examples that it's real and needs to be dealt with, that the insurance industry so clearly understood it because their bottom line is dependent on fixing it.
And you do take, like down there on the Gulf Coast and stuff, the odds of your house being destroyed in your lifetime is a pretty big, and the way those hurricanes pop up anymore. Yeah.
Well, I gotta wrap up because we're heading to Rockville, Maryland to meet some people for lunch. And that's about a half-hour drive. So
have a good one, Craig. I'll talk to you later.
I was I'm gonna end it now. Did y'all see my talking Lincoln? I'm not saying you should stay on here to watch, but I'm just gonna end with it.
Okay.
But I'm just curious. Did you see my talking Lincoln?
Yes, he's wonderful.
Yeah.
What did you think?
It wasn't too bad.
What kind of stats are you getting on him?
How do you pick the voice on that?
Well, I wanted Daniel Day-Lewis, but as I figured, he was copyrighted because Daniel Day-Lewis, I think, historians think he's done the best job of capturing Lincoln's high pitch and accent and everything. But anyway, what I mainly went for is just something that was clear to understand, to hear, and I just sort of randomly listened to, there are lots of them you can choose, but that one I just chose because it was easy to hear.
Well, that was why I was wondering, do they have different accent styles or?
Yeah, I
'Cause, you
just
know,
went
like
on YouTube and looked for, because there's all kinds of recordings of Gettysburg Address. And what I discovered is on YouTube and TikTok, lots of people have done their own recordings of Gettysburg Address. Just people just doing it for fun, and some of them are kind of funny.
That's getting to be the whole YouTube video stuff. There's too many people doing what you're doing here. So
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody's got
It's back to the somebody said one time early on in the internet, I remember some experts saying someday everybody will have their own channel. Well, we're there. Here we are. Everybody's got their own channel, own TV channel. All right. Well, David's nudging me here. We got to head out. But
okay.
Good talking.
Have a good one.
Farewell, Jack. Bye-bye, Craig.
All right. We'll let Abe take us out. Go listen to a little bit of Abe Lincoln talking. Today marks 162 years since Lincoln delivered the Gettysburg Address. For the anniversary, we're bringing his words back to life as part of Echoes of America, our countdown to the 250th.
77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this, but in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it. Far above our poor power to add or detract, the world will little note, nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
10 sentences that reset the nation's purpose. And as we head toward the 250th next year, they're a reminder of the unfinished work, the freedom the founders talked about but didn't actually deliver.